welcome to a day in the woods with John Milandred. Tomorrow, I decided to work on this project, and tomorrow I'm going to take and go for a walk in the woods and kind of show you my life and who I am. A lot of people ask me questions all the time, you know, are you a survivalist, and are you a homesteader, and on and on and on, and I want to clarify a couple things. In my opinion, a survivalist is somebody that can survive in the woods. You know, it could be a week, could be 2 weeks. If they're an actual professional, they know what they're doing, I might even give them 3 weeks. Military trained, give you an extra week. So let's make it a month. That's probably pretty much it for most people. Then you have a woodsman. A woodsman is somebody that grew up in the woods. They hunt, they fish, they camp, they forage. Those guys, you know, they're tough. They could probably stay out there a month and a half. Then you have a homesteader. A homesteader is somebody that went and basically the old style would be they took and cultivated the land and tamed it, so to speak, and they started a garden. They know a lot about animals, canning, preserving, drying, storing foods. They also have to know a lot about medicines and the different plant life. So then you have a pioneer. And a pioneer is kind of like an adventuresome person. Like our ancestors, they would take and get a wagon and pretty much fill all their stuff in it, and they travel. And sometimes it could take up to a year living off the land. You know, those are the true survivalists, the true heritage of our country. They had to know so much, you know, from making soaps to making their own charcoal, sometimes make their own black powder, hunt, fish. I mean, nobody was there to help them. And so they had to be self-reliant and rely on themselves. Strong people. So each thing is basically different. If you take and you combined all of those together, that would be me. Mountain man, for instance, you know, same thing, trapper, living off the land, you know, knew his medicines, knew the trail, pretty much knew everything, even down to chemistry, how to make glues, you know, from pitch. Basically, he had to improvise and be self-reliant all the time. So this will take and give you just a little bit of an example. There is so much to learn that I could spend every week for the next 5 years showing you these things. So stay tuned and we'll go for a walk in the woods. The great outdoors. My name's John Milandred, and I guess you would call me a survivalist, a woodsman, a pioneer, homesteader, pretty much all of the above. And this is my little trip into the woods. And it's about 60 degrees, I think. Nah, probably even about 50. And we're just going to take a peek around and enjoy Mother Nature. There is nothing better in the world than being out here. It's like, listen, you hear that?
Yeah, birds, no traffic, no sirens, no people. And really, there is nothing better in the world than this. You know, call me crazy, but why would anyone want to be in the city instead of out here? Now, the first thing in a situation is you have to think of your immediate needs. Your immediate needs is water, mainly. Then you have shelter, food, when you're out here with limited amount of water, you want to really be careful. Walk slow, be calm. You don't want to sweat because you don't want to waste any amount of water that's in you. Of course, without water, you can't eat as well. Oh, it's getting a little warm. I'm going to be shedding this stuff off here in a little bit. The biggest thing is without water, you can only go for approximately 3 days. Drinking your urine, you might be able to go 4. So that is your most importantest aspects when you're out searching for a location or a campsite or anything else, is your water source. And so you really have to pay attention to your environment. That means looking for any ducks or any birds, following possible game trails, really listening to the sounds and see if you can hear water in motion. Mosquitoes would be a good sign, but not enjoyable. So until you find water, you're kind of at the mercy of the elements and what you have with you. So let's take a look at what's in my backpack and what I would actually bring on an extended stay. When you're a backpacker or you're just out in the woods, you know, there is a possibility of being lost. You could be out there a week, you could be out there a month, you could be out there a year. So you have to think on multiple lines of reality, your immediate needs, your short-term needs, your mid-term needs, your long-term needs. And so there's different levels that you can go. So you start with the basic and see what I have in my pack and what I can do. As you can see, one of the first things you see is my little cast iron skillet. And I'm just a firm believer in cast iron. You don't have to wash it really. Just scrub it up with a little bit of sand. You know, they're just perfect. Yeah, people say they weigh a little bit, but you know, give me cast iron any day of the week. Now I'm going to describe some of this stuff as well. So that you get a better understanding. I have an extra knife, some paracord on it. I have a little bit of, you know, everything in here. A razor, toothbrush, comb. You know, hygiene is very important. I have a bar of soap. And people are like, yeah, but if you're out there for, let's say, a year, what good's one bar of soap? And that I'll explain later on. But I can make this bar of soap go for a year. So I have a sharpening stone. And some water purification tablets, just in case. Now this is an extreme emergency, mind you, because you can build a filter or have a filter. Next step, plastic bag. It's actually like a painter's tarp. You have your first aid kit. You have your flint and steel. You have a lighter, which doesn't do you much good because that will run out. You have a multi-tool, just in case you need it. Of course, I like to have a fork. Of course, you have your camera, what's I'm using now. I have a little bit of toilet paper. And what this is just to get you by until you can set up camp. After that, you're going to be doing it like the pioneer style. Once you set up camp and you find water, you're basically going to be using a rag. Yes, you can use leaves, but I prefer using a rag. And of course, you have to wash the rag out. It's no different than a baby diaper. Water purification bottle. Why? Because if you haven't made your charcoal and set up a charcoal filter system somehow, you know, this is probably about the next best thing. You know, it does filter the water. There's still risks with everything you use, but it's better than nothing. I like to have a pretty good sized knife. A lot of people don't. I do. Also acts as a saw. Many uses for it. Also a hatchet, which this was my grandfather's. Still in great shape. Still works. Probably close to 100 years old. Now, I have a second bag. People are wondering, why would you have a second bag? And I'll get to that in a minute. I'll also have a collapsible water container. I have char cloth. And char cloth you make out of 100% cotton, so you can use your t-shirt. Now the reason why is because, no offense to some of the survivalists out there, but I don't like using a bow drill. Yes, as you've seen, I have my spark. But what happens if you lost it? Okay, char cloth is easy to make. You use 100% cotton. When it's in your fire, you can take and basically it's smoldering the cloth until it becomes blackened, and you smother it. When you pull it out, it's char cloth. Now this can set with the smallest spark. I have lit it on fire with a baggie and filled with clear urine or water. I have used a crystal rock or quartz rock with another rock to make a spark. I've done this many times. And so I always make char cloth because of the what if. Also have another plastic bag. Most of my weight is water. I mean, that's, you know, doesn't seem like much, but it does weigh. And what it is just little tiny pouches. Okay, because until I find water, I gotta have something. Otherwise, it can be a dangerous situation.
couple other things. Tube tent until I can set up camp. Also a poncho, just in case I don't want to get wet. I have a little candle stove until I can set up proper camp. A survival sleeping bag. An extra space blanket. I also carry a folding army shovel. And you're probably asking yourself why. When you have a shovel, it makes life a whole lot easier. If you're going to be out here for even a month, okay, you're going to live on small game. Plant life, of course, but small game. You have to be able to keep it fresh. So one of the first things after you set up camp is you need to create what's called a cold smoker. It's just a primitive way of smoking your meat with cold smoke, no heat really. But you still have to have a place to put it. So digging a hole in the ground and putting rocks on your sidewalls to put your meat in, and then you need to cover it up. That's where a shovel would come in handy. I also have, 1 energy bar. That's all I get. That's enough for about a day. Paracord, a little bit of extra rope. I have, my 1 cup. And of course, I have a little oil candle. Because, you know, sometimes that light helps. And yeah, it's not going to last that long, you know, but an extra half an hour after dark for the first couple months is great. Okay, let me explain the second bag. It's a regular fanny pack. And the reason is because if you're searching for a location to actually set up camp, you don't want to wander the woods carrying a large heavy pack on you and going, gee, where am I going? Where, you know, because you need water. That's your first priority. Where's the water source? If it was storming out here, yes, shelter, because you don't want to be soaked. Right now it's 55, 60 degrees. I don't anticipate any bad weather coming in, so that my first priority is thinking, I need water. So when you're walking around, kind of doing a scout, and you don't have your supplies with you, you have to have something. And so in here, I have 2 med kits, just little backpacking med kits. I got paracord. I have regular utility tool. I have magnesium with a little striker, flint, some gauze. It actually works as toilet paper. Space blanket, poncho, emergency blanket, dental floss. Dental floss is your friend, and I don't mean for cleaning your teeth. You can actually use it as rope. Also fishing line. Snake bite kit, because out here one of the things you have to pay attention to is we have copperheads. Copperheads don't have a rattle, and so if they strike you, you're going to be in a bad situation. So it's good to have something is better than nothing. We also have little timber rattles. They pretty much don't rattle too much either. And if you hit any of the swampy areas, if you happen to find them, you just got too many dangerous snakes out there that you want to have a snake bite kit. I actually carry some wax with me, only because you can use it on so many things. Waterproofing, you can mix with pitch, a lot of different uses, and just a little bit of rope. Now, this is just standard rope. It's crap, nylon. The reason is because now and then, you got to mark your trail. The worst thing that could ever happen is to be lost. I think I was lost once when I was about 15 years old. I ended up 3 mountain ranges over. Luckily, I have carried this same pack most of my life, and it did come in handy. I got back that night. Of course, everybody was worried. And I started really paying attention after that fact, because you have to know your environment. But it's always good that if you even think you can be turned around, especially in thick, deep in woods, mark your trail. It doesn't hurt, because you need to come back to your main supplies. So that's why carrying a secondary is one of the most important things. So that's pretty much what I have as far as my survival supplies. Weighs approximately 40 pounds, 45 pounds. I don't want to go over that. I have different layers of clothes, which I'll be taking off, re-putting back in my pack. Right now it was a little chilly this morning, so I just layered up. It's easy to take clothes off, but it's hard to put clothes on if you don't have any. Well, as you can see, I had to shed a little bit of coat. That's because it's getting hot. I do not want to sweat. I want to try to avoid sweating, because I do have limited amount of water in it. Until I find water, that's the bad thing to do. So just take it slow and easy until you can find water and a place to camp. But out here, there is nothing better. You do have to be aware, like I was saying earlier, about the snakes, for instance. There's also, here in southeast Oklahoma, we have what's called panthers. When I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, we had cougars. These panthers have been big enough to carry off a 200-pound cow without even leaving drag marks. So that's a real issue here as well. So you always have to be looking, even looking up, looking down, you know, paying attention and being aware of your entire surroundings. It's no different than looking at the pines and stuff, because in the winter, you're going to be boiling some of these pine needles. You need the vitamin C. Otherwise, you can get what's called scurvy. If you're out here for any length of time, you know, we're talking 3 months, 6 months, you know, long term. You're always looking for anything that you can use. Never pass up a meal, you know, unless you don't have water. Then you better keep it extremely light. So we're going to continue on the journey and try to find some water source. Now see, that's what I'm talking about right there. You always have to keep your eyes open. This right here is called poke salad. And there's actually quite a bit of it next to this stump. This is really good eating. They say to boil it 3 times. I have found that you know, you can boil it once and it's fine. I've even actually eaten the stalks, peeled them and eaten them raw. They taste like cucumbers. But that's me, you know. If they say, you know, don't do it, then I would probably suggest you don't, because everybody's body is different. There's some more over here too. You know, another thing is all this grass. Now, I'm not a cow, so I don't like eating grass, but you can boil that and get the nutrients out of it and the vitamins before, I guess, before you put in your poke salad, if you're going to do a second boil. I would actually boil that up and then save the water. And then you boil the poke salad, take and throw that water out, put some clean, your grass water back in. And you got some good meal. It's like spinach. Man, I wish I had some water and I wish I had some vinegar. Man, that'd be awesome. See, I'm kind of looking for a spot like this where I can do some clearing. I got the opening, but it's covered on both sides, or all three sides. The only problem with this spot, though, is it's facing the wrong direction. You always want your doorway and your campsite facing east, because most of the time your weather is coming from the other directions. And so, yes, I would be blocked from, two sides in reality, but when the weather comes in from the west here, it's going to blow right in. So this would be somewhat ideal if it was close to water and, like I said, on the other side. And that's something to keep in mind, and you always have to be thinking of situations like this. Here's something else. In southeast Oklahoma, we have a lot of prickly pears. Now the prickly pear, the berries are just incredible. I love those. Real good fruit. But those pads, boy, they got a lot of thorns that you can't see. I mean, they're micro, and it's terrible. But you get a stick and you pull that out, and you roast it on the fire and burn off all of that little needles, and it's pretty tasty. I mean, it's not the best in the world, but it has a lot of nutrients. It's going to get windy and cold, and so I don't want the lowlands either, even if I did find water, because the mosquitoes and the snakes like to go there as well. So I'm kind of looking for an in-between spot, not necessarily super low and next to the water, but not high up on a mountainside either. I'm going to start following some of these game trails. It seems like everything's heading toward the west, and maybe these game trails will give me a lead. I wish I'd seen a duck fly by or something, but I ain't going to hold my breath. Well, I don't think going through the woods is the smartest idea. Clearing. Finally. Well, just keep trucking. Well, I've been following game trails. Seems like all of them, all the animals seem to be going down slightly. Now this would be a perfect campsite, in a way. Eastern position is protected, but I don't know if you can see this, but it's kind of on a hill. That means if I built a shelter right here or anything, when it rains, the water is going to come down and go right inside. So that's not the ideal spot. I don't know if you can see this very well, but all over in this area is hog sign, wild feral hogs. You can see where they've been rooting around. Now that's a good sign because I got water somewhere. Could be within, you know, a couple miles. But hogs need to stay cool. And because of that, they don't have sweat glands. Now this is really fresh here. And they have a tendency, they have to have that water to kind of waller in and stay cool. So I'm going to keep following this. Ducks. Water. Oh, if I just had a 22, I would have duck. Let's go down and check this out. Well, that is not the prettiest water I've ever seen. Ew. And so this is where a filter comes in, because I'm going to have to filter this through my water bottle, but it's not going to last that long with the way it looks. And even then, I think I probably want to boil it. That's going to take a while because I got to boil it, let it cool, put it in my plastic container. Boil it, let it cool, put it in my plastic container. Until I get some sand, some moss, and plenty of charcoal from the fire, then I can make a filter. But you still want to boil this. Found food, not the best in the world, but it's something. Found water, that's a real joy. And so you have to look at your immediate needs. Okay, my immediate need was water. Along the way, I found food. Plus, I found lots of vines to tie up a nice shelter with. And so now, because I don't know how cold it's going to get tonight, it's going to be shelter. And of course, I want to be building a fire because I need to boil some water and cook some poke salad and stuff like that. So my basic needs are taken care of at the moment. So there's no life-threatening danger. Now, once I get control over that, then it's going to take me to the next level. The next level being a little bit more long-term. So long-term, you're going to have a lot bigger structure. And like I said, I want to do the teepee style out of wood, lace them all together, start the branches coming down. But that's a big ordeal. The next thing, because it's long-term, is to have what's called a cold smoker. So that the smoke is actually not cold, but it's cold, like 70 degrees. That way it permeates and dehydrates your meat that you do collect, like let's say, for instance, a deer. Okay, that's a lot of meat, but you better have a cold smoker in order to cure it and then almost blacken it so that the insects won't even touch it. And the mold can't actually penetrate the meat. But you still have to have it basically cool. Luckily, you know, it's almost summer, so that's going to be hard to do out here. So what you have to do is be able to dig a pit deep enough, like the Indians did, and actually dig it down deep, put a layer of rocks going around, and put your meat inside there, and then cover it up extremely well. Now, there is a risk. You know, a bear could come, smell it, dig it up, and eat it. But at least it's a way of somewhat preserving that food. If you could find dried berries, dried nuts, you know, get a rabbit, save the stomach, or anything, save the stomach, because you can tan that because it's waterproof. And you want to be able to tan that into your storage bag, basically. That way you could sew it up and seal it, you know. You can also mix it with a little bit of fat along with the berries and the nuts and get meat, dry it to a powder, and then mix it all together and make what's called pemmican. And you stick that into your cured stomach, basically, and you bury it. And they have found these in Canada that they have dug up that have been there probably 100 years and were still edible. And so, think it on the multiple levels. Your direct needs, then go to your midterm needs, your long-term needs. And that's how you survive. So, we're still looking for a spot for a camp, so that'll be next. Get a camp up, get a fire going, get some water boiled, get some food. It's a good day.
Well, I've decided to make this location a kind of like my little camp for now, until I can find a better one. Got some straight poles. There's some vines. It's not sloped, somewhat flat, and it's pretty well protected. There's not a lot of dead stuff around except for a pile right there, but it should be fine. I think I'm protected on all sides. First thing I want to do is kind of clear the area, get some of this stuff off. I think I'll use these two trees, just make it a small one. So it's not going to be very big. But, like I said, it's just going to be a temporary, get me out of the sun, the weather, the rain, give me some warmth. I need to still build this. I need to get my water, get some fluids, get a little snack, you know, get ready for bed. And I only have about 7 hours to do it. Everything here takes a lot more time. A lot more time. If I had time, I'd make a rake. What I'm doing, just making a temp shelter. And what it is you just bring your main support, tie it. I got paracord, and I'm going along and I'm cutting pieces so that you can basically get underneath. My fire will be right here. Each one of these pieces will be tied with paracord. And then, in order to save what paracord I have, I'll take vines, weave them back and through to give this strength. And I'll put my sides on, and then I'll start getting from cedar to pine to anything I can find, and put it over the top until I can't see through it. And that gives me my makeshift shelter. Basically, it's a temporary shelter. I've spent quite a bit of the time today looking for water, for food, monitoring my surroundings. So I haven't had a lot of time to build this, and I'm getting pretty thirsty. So I guess I'm going to have to forego this for right now. Shelter's not the immediate. You have to concentrate on what is your immediate needs. My immediate needs is water. That means building a fire, because I have to collect my water, filter it, boil it. I need something to eat. That takes precedence. So I'm going to start working on that and forego this and kind of figure out, you know, on how it goes. That's what you have to do, though. Immediate needs, short term, mid-term, long term. So I'm still working on my immediate. What do you do? I've gathered some rocks and kind of did out my small fire pit. Now the only thing I'm just going to do is line this. This is going to help with a little bit of wind the more you build it up, but always have a little bit taller rock. This one faces toward you, and the more rocks you have and the higher this back end is, what it does is the smoke will follow it. It also acts as a windbreak so it doesn't come into your shelter, and it reflects the heat back. Now, a lot of people will take and use like a fire bow, and it's just some paracord on a stick, and it goes just like a bow, and you have your other wood, and then you'll have like a rock on top to hold it, and a board that you notch out. I don't like spending that much time working to build a fire. Other people will use, go ahead and use a lighter if you have it. But anytime I do a fire, like I said earlier, I make char cloth, and it's just cotton cut into little tiny squares, and you put it on your coals and you smother it. Almost similar like how you would make charcoal, but you smother it, and what's left is char cloth. I have set char cloth on fire with just the slightest spark. I've used magnifying glass. I've used a quartz rock and a hard rock. I've used flint and steel. It is probably the best thing. One t-shirt could probably start, I don't know, 700, 800, 900 fires. So that makes more sense. It's just charred cloth. Want your dried grass? Go ahead and get your steel, a flint, and just a little spark. See how it's glowing? Just like a mantle.
layer. That's easy. Well, I better keep this going, build it up, so I can have warmth, cook some supper later, and boil some water. Well, I got my nice brown water, and I decided I'm boiling it first. Then once it cools, I know everything's dead, then I go ahead and I stick it in my water bottle, because at least it has a filter, and it'll do 100 gallons. And I just have to keep doing this over and over and over. But you know, at least I know everything's killed by boiling, and then it's being filtered once again. Hopefully it tastes better than it looks. Won't kill me. Okay, well, next thing is get this shelter finished, and then it'd be time for something to eat. I'm getting hungry. Now, to conserve on paracord, what I'm going to do is I'm just tying each one of these pieces to my brace. And that way it makes this whole section strong. Then to conserve on paracord, I'm going to weave in through all the way down vines, roots, anything. This was going to be a permanent shelter. It'd be a lot bigger and like a teepee. And I'd make it a lot stronger for snow and the wind, everything. But this is just a temporary. And so I'm not really concerned about how strong it is for right now. Just tie each one, interloop it through, do your bottom. I kind of rounded my sides here, and that way I can take and put cedar and pine needles and just interlace it, and just keep going just like that.
And what you want is to try to get it to where you can't see through it. I'm not expecting rain. This is a temporary shelter. So once again, use your own judgment. If you know it's going to rain, then you want as much debris as possible on that for waterproofing. Home sweet home. See, this will help for the time being. And I can sit back and relax. I still got to put a bed in here, but curl back. It's pretty roomy, comfortable. Keep me out of the sun. I like it. I've taken and gathered a few things that'll show you. I found, I think it's one cricket. That ain't gonna be enough. But this is wood sorrel. Kind of tastes like raspberries. That's my dessert. Of course, I got my poke salad. That'll be good. Tastes like spinach. Got some grass. I want to get the nutrients out. A little bit later on, these will go to seed, and I'll start collecting all the seed. And then just some pine, maybe some pine tips for a little flavor, vitamin C. It doesn't seem like much, but it's filling. So the first thing I'm going to do is boil the grass, then take the grass out and just leave the water. Then I'm going to take and boil the poke salad, dump that water out and put the grass water in. And that's what I can have to eat. And a little bit of pine just for vitamin C. And then the wood sorrels I'm just going to eat the way they are as kind of like my dessert. One mighty cricket. Here in about another week, there'll be a lot of crickets, grasshoppers. They're crunchy. They're okay. Some worms. Worms don't really have a flavor. You just think of them as spaghetti. And grubs, hey, just think of them as shrimp. But here before long, they'll be in an abundance. So I'll get plenty of protein. Most of your food source is going to be foraging, small game, and insects. Yeah, a little crunchy. A little bit of pine flavor. Yeah. Vitamin C. Good way of keeping your grass from getting dirty. You just stick it in your mouth. just let it simmer in there. And what you're trying to do is just boil it and get the nutrients out. After you boil it for about 10 minutes or so, you're going to want to take and pour off your liquid, because you want to save that liquid. And then just go ahead and discard the grass. Get some more water. Now, with poke salad, everybody has said, boil it 3 times. I've heard that to death. But I boil it once. Maybe it's just me. You know, if you've never tried it, take and boil it 3 times. Maybe the next time boil it twice. Next time boil it once. It's up to you. I've just been accustomed to not really worrying about it. And these stalks, they tell you not to. But I've shaved them and ate them like cucumbers. You know, in a small quantity, it's not going to hurt you. But don't bet your life on it either. So I'm not saying to do it. I've even had locals tell me, don't be eating that. You can't eat that raw. That'll make you sick. It'll poison you. But, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Cucumber. When you're out here and you're like this, you have to think like a wolverine. I mean, if it moves, crawls, slithers, walks, or grows, you eat it. Constantly thinking about nutrition and nutrients and everything. You don't waste anything. You get an animal, you cook up the blood. There's a lot of salt in the blood. Another thing is hygiene out here. Okay, earlier I said I had 1 bar of soap. Now, a little bit later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some wood. I'm going to basically tie them together and try to make almost like a bowl or a cylinder, I guess you would call it. Then the outside I'm going to put pitch, try to waterproof it. All the ash in your fire is very important. For starters, you take that and you fill it up, you add water, let it trickle just a little bit, and you try to get all the lye out of it. It turns into what's called lye water. Now, it's an caustic, so be careful. You know, don't get it inside your eyes or anything else. Now, you take this and basically concentrate it down. Then, when you get animal fats, especially the white animal fat, you want to take and cook that and render it into what's called lard.
and just cook the living hell out of it and liquefy it. Now you take your lye water at about 1/4 concentration or so. You're going to have to really guess because you have no measurements. You mix that with your lard, and you cook it and cook it and cook it and cook it and cook it until you think it's thickening up and it's done, and then you cook it about 4 or 5 more hours after that. Then you take your 1 bar of soap and you divide that. Let's say you're going to be a year. You divide that into 12 chunks. Each chunk, when you know that that is turning into lye soap, you add your 1 chunk in there and melt it. Now what this does is basically gives you just a little tiny bit of lather, because lye soap does not lather. Also, antibacterial soap, hey, at least you get a little bit of something in there to make you feel better, I guess. It's not necessary, but I do it. So then I would take, like my tin here, let it sit and cool after I'm cooked it and harden. Then pop it out, let it air dry. It's going to harden some more. So now I have 12 bars of soap based on 1 bar of soap. So it's not just being a survivalist or being a woodsman and knowing how to hunt and fish and how to forage for food and what to eat and what not to eat. And yeah, get over your food prejudice, because those bugs will save your life. But it's everything else. How to make your charcoal, how to make your camp and your house, how to build things, how to make your soaps. You know, every single part of that is a part of it. You know, without hygiene, you're not going to survive anyways. Without getting some salt into your system, you can't be a vegetarian forever without salt out here. So you have to know how to gather it, collect it, keep your eyes open for everything and anything. You know, even dandelions, you know, superfood, cattails if you can get them, because of the amount of pollen that you can get. Now with that pollen, you can mix with water and make ash cakes. You know, that would be perfect. You know, find a little bit of fruit. You can make a pie with the lard. Maybe find a bird's egg, mix that in, some cattail flour. Boy, a little bit of fruit. I'd make a little pie out of this. But don't concentrate on what you don't have, because I don't have it right now. So I'm getting off track. Maybe because I'm hungry. But just think of everything, and everything can be reused. There's 3 or 4 purposes for every single thing there is. Just open your mind to it. You have to be rough, tough, mean, just like a wild dog. They don't care. They'll eat that bug. You know, they'll eat that rabbit. They'll eat that squirrel. They'll eat that mouse. You know, even maggots are edible. And you also have to know about medicines, like a willow tree. It's aspirin, basically. An ash tree, you can put the bark in your mouth if you got a toothache. It numbs it really good. Moss and clay, you know, are very important for antiseptics. Propolis inside a beehive, if you can find a beehive. Triple antibiotic right there. You know, it's like an ointment. Make it into an ointment. If you cut yourself, you better have Medkit. If not, you know, the old-fashioned way, heat up a knife, cauterize it. You burn that sucker. You stop the bleeding. You know, if maggots start getting into it, don't worry about it. Maggots will only eat dead flesh. They will not eat living flesh. You do everything it takes to save your life. And sometimes you have to go to the extremes. Hopefully it never comes down to that. Now, this poke salad has been boiled, but I like it just a little bit more. I'm cooking it like I would spinach, basically. A little bit longer.
Water, for all intensive purposes, you can wash your hands when it cools. You never really want to throw anything away. So now I'm just going to add that to my light pine water and grass water. That's going to help cool it. Now normally I'm just going to keep doing this. Go out, get more poke salad, just keep doing it, keep doing it. This you can pull out. This is what you're going to want to cool. So you can wash your hands later. Not going to hurt. Let's see how this is. If I had a little bit of butter or salt, fat's better. I'd like some fat, but I haven't had an animal yet. And then also, a lot of people don't know this, but here in Oklahoma, there's a lot of hickory nuts, hickory trees. You can dig down on a hickory tree, pecan tree, and actually get the bark, the roots, I mean, at the bottom. And you mash them and cut them up and boil them. Boil the heck out of it. Then pull those pieces out and just keep boiling it and slowly vaporize the water. And the black crystals that are left is natural salt. Takes a lot, but it's better than nothing, and I actually wish I had some right now. So, I'm going to continue eat my poke salad. Wood sorrels. I love these things. You can boil them. You don't want to eat too many or a lot. It will give you an upset stomach. But when they're big like this, what a treat, because it tastes like a raspberry. So it's kind of like dessert. Ooh, real strong raspberry taste. Put that in some pie. Well, I'm gonna continue eating, get nourishment. Be getting dark pretty soon, and hopefully it won't be too cold. Boy, that's good raspberry. People ask all the time, you know, what do you do when you're out by yourself for long periods and stuff? And a lot of times you talk to yourself. You're constantly talking to yourself. And yes, you do answer yourself too. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're just keeping your mind busy all the time. Another thing is, and that's probably what a lot of people don't know about me, is I play the harmonica now and then. You know, that's probably something nobody knows, but it just takes your mind off of like your problems. Sometimes if you're cold, if you've had a bad day, and it's pretty much something to do around the fire, other than sharpen your knife. I'm going to play a little bit, then I'm going to bed, because it's been a heck of a day. I'll see you in the morning.
morning. Well, got a little chilly last night. I think I need to build the fire pit a little bit bigger, put some more rocks around it. Didn't have time to make my bed, but this tree, actually is pretty comfortable, to sit back on. Now it's time to get up, build a fire, get a little warm, and then I think I'm gonna take all my clothes off, check myself for ticks. That's something to keep in mind. You should do that every single day, because there is ticks. But it's just a part of being out here. And then I think I'll start working on putting out some rabbit snares. A rabbit snare is just a metal wire with a loop. You put it by a rabbit hole or a rabbit trail. Get some good protein in it. It just grabs them and holds them and snares them. One thing I wish I would have brought is a big rat trap. There's a lot of squirrels or mice, rats, gophers, something last night constantly in the woods, moving around and stuff. And with a rat trap, hey, I could have woke up to some really nice breakfast. So that's something I'm going to have to keep a mental note on. You might want to as well. Hope you enjoyed being out in the woods for the day with me, and I'll see you next time.